we while want our children to be fearless.
Teenagers and their issues are always a difficult one to handle. Children do not do what we say, they do what we do. Most of our actions are prompted by fear. That's what Krishna says in the Gita. If you're worrying about the outcome, then it's fear that guides you. How do we build it? Vedic texts and everything. Children went to Gurukul. They were taken away from parental influence, deep into the forest. The world is always telling our children that if you don't achieve this level of marks, this kind of job, this kind of car, this kind of house, this kind of yard, you're a failure. You're not good enough. We won't be seen as successful parents if our children don't achieve something.
What did Sri Krishna say about anxieties?
You are in this battlefield, Arjuna. There is no escape. Don't let anxiety overcome you. That's what happens to Arjuna. Once you enter one portal, through one portal you enter Indic philosophy. That's all. You can't escape, basically. More and more portals keep opening up and your yoga's chitta vritti nirodha. It is just to calm your mind. That's what it means. It's a very question-answer format. The questions are missing, but the answers are there. If you look in the mirror and say, God, I hate how I look, that is horrible violence you're committing against yourself. That's the end of learning. That's the end of growth.
आप कहते हो किसी को hurt नहीं करना चाहिए, but अगर कोई मुझे मार रहा है तो how do you think parents can encourage to develop a growth mindset in children? Well, we have with us today Rupa P, and let's dive right into this conversation with Rupa. Hi Rupa, welcome to you. I think for the longest time we had wanted you on the show, and I'm so glad that this happened, even though at a short notice. But I am delighted because especially your book, the Gita, is something that I gifted my daughter on her 10th birthday. And I do hope and pray that like many other students and children of her age, she also gets initiated into the Shrimad Bhagavad Gita after reading your book. It makes it very simple to understand for children. Some of the most profound, knowledge that Sri Krishna gave, you've made it so accessible for children. And also, personally, as a student of Sri Bhagavad Gita, I realized that, it provides you with answers to every problem that you have in life. Not just talk about the Gita, but you've also interpreted and written books on the Vedas and Upanishads. You've written a book on Yoga Sutras, which is again a very tough area to delve into. So I thought, why not have you talk about some of the challenges that we as parents face today with children. So welcome again. And thank you so much for making time today.
Thank you, Lipika, and thank you to the Indic Pen for having me. Yes, it is short notice, and I wasn't expecting this, but any opportunity to talk about the Gita, I'm always up for it.
No,
So
I'm
here
so
I am.
thankful. Yes. As a parent, and as many parents, especially of teenagers today, the first and foremost challenge that we face is that of there is a very thin line between fearlessness and being reckless. There are issues of drugs, there are issues of, alcoholism and addiction very early on. The biggest addiction is that of social media. How do you explain as a parent that this is being fearless and this is being reckless, especially through the texts that we have here?
Okay, starting off with a big one. Yeah, teenagers and their issues are always a difficult one to handle. But let's talk about fearlessness first, what
Right.
it means and why it's important. So, like most other philosophies, ideologies, whether it's the American, motto, life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness.
True.
So, there are different religions and different ideologies define different things as the pursuit of life, purpose of life. What is your purpose? So many could be like, to be happy. How am I supposed to be happy in this life? These are questions we ask. How are we supposed? Because samsara is a ocean in which you're always stormy ocean. You're always being tossed about. You're flailing. You're floundering. So how am I supposed to find purpose? How am I supposed to find peace? How am I supposed to be happy? These are the questions we ask. And humanity has asked this since the beginning of time.
Absolutely,
Because we
yes.
don't know. It appears too random. Otherwise, you're just born, you struggle through something, and then you're dead and it's over.
True, and with every yoga, it changes.
changes.
Every
But these are
era.
existential questions.
True, true.
And so I love that Indic philosophies don't define happiness as the pursuit of your life. They don't define peace as the purpose of your life. They define fearlessness as the purpose of your life. And in fact, fearlessness, because if you go a little further, what do they define as the purpose of your life? Moksha,
True.
mukti. And that means freedom. So, freedom. Okay, so then which begs the question, freedom from what? And the answer is freedom from fear. Because most of our actions in our lives, if we choose to examine them closely, if we drill down and find out what's the source, where is this action coming from? Why am I thinking what I'm thinking? Why am I doing what I'm doing? Because most of us act very impulsively.
True.
When you truly drill down with being mindful action, we discover that most of our actions are prompted by fear. Fear of losing respect, fear of losing dignity, fear of being thought of as a sissy by your friends. And the biggest one of all is fear of loss of loved ones, of things. It could be the latest Apple iPhone. Losing it could be like, devastating to someone.
True.
So fear of loss is a big one. And of course, the overarching fear above everything and everything else is the fear of your own death. If you are acting out of fear, then that action is possibly not the best action. That's what Krishna says in the Gita. If you can take out emotion, that is what is vairagya, detachment.
Correct.
Be like slightly detached from the action. It's from the outcome of the action. Don't worry about the outcome so much, because then if you're worrying about the outcome, then it's fear that guides you. But if you can somehow take the outcome away and focus on the action itself, it is likely to be right action. If you take emotion out of the equation, and emotion could be any kind of emotion, then your rational mind, which you're blessed with as a human being, logical, reasonable, rational mind will come to the fore, not be clouded by emotion, and you can take good action. So, mukti is freedom. Freedom from what? Freedom from fear. And therefore, we want to build fearlessness in ourselves and our children. Now, how do we build it? Unfortunately, in the end, it comes back to the parent. I'm sorry to say, I'm sure parents have enough burdens to carry already, and we are always flaying ourselves for not doing the right thing by our children, by ourselves, by our parents, by everyone. However, the truth is that children do not do what we say, they do what we do. So unless we role model fearlessness for them,
practice it,
without actually having to say anything, if we just role model it, they imbibe it from a very young age. Now, even the Vedic texts and everything, children went to Gurukul at the age of 12. They were taken away from parental influence at the age of 12.
Actually, we never thought about it.
Deep into the forest
to
expand their own understanding of themselves, to act out in whatever way they wanted. Because what is happening in the teenage years? They're trying to find who they are. What is my identity? So they are pushing the envelope in every direction to see, is this me? How far can I take it? If I do this, because the world is a mystery and they're just exploring it.
True.
So actually, even if we don't send our kids away to the forest at the age of 12, we should understand, we should be conscious from the very beginning that we are stewarding their journey only up to the age of 12. Basically, in the first 12 years, if we can role model fear, whatever our values are, if we can role model them without just trying to love them and smother them in our love and our affection and buy things for them, and this is what we do for our children.
Most of the parents do, especially working parents, to make up for the loss
so
of
our own guilt,
their presence,
and our own whatever makes us overdo it for children.
True.
Overindulge, and so then we stretch our own limits of what we consider reasonable behavior to children. We will do extra, even though we don't think we spoil them.
True.
Okay, and in our own lives, we are thinking that they're too small to notice, so we are doing whatever we want.
Correct.
And so this is all, unfortunately, those first 12 years are when that's the only time we have. It's very precious. So you have to be very mindful of what we say, what we do, how we act.
True.
And once they have got that in them, that is there as their Vajra Kavach for life. They know it. They may try and break out of it. They may see what will happen if they step out of the Lakshman Rekha, and that is fine. They should be allowed to do that, within reasonable limits, of course. So they should be allowed to experiment, find out who they are. But you can rest assured at least that what I have given them till the age of 12 will bring them back to the path at some point.
Profound. I think, that also addresses the question, one of the techniques that you did mention, about how you need to emulate, you need to practice what you are trying to teach them. But even for adults, it's very difficult to understand the difference between right and wrong.
Yes, absolutely.
What is Dharma? What's adharma?
Yeah.
So what is Dharma really? And how, both from the perspective of how we explain it to the adults, and then to somebody who's 10-year-old or 8-year-old, according to, since you interact with.
Yeah, it's very difficult to know, especially this is supposed to be Kali Yuga, right?
Right.
So where the lines have become way thinner between Dharma and Adharma. So if we go back to Satya Yuga, which is when Harishchandra held sway, then everybody was good. Okay,
true.
so
Yeah.
the level of morality, or morality is a silly word, but the level of ethical behavior in society was very high among the whole society. Then you get into Treta Yuga, that is Rama's Yuga, where even the villains have enough to, so-called villains like Ravana, they are also very pious, very
Of course,
devout,
Learned,
scholars of the Vedas,
yeah.
learned. So one of the guidelines to go by is, of course, what I explain to children, for instance, is what is your dharma as a student. And we have that varnashrama system, right? So in this position of your life, in this role that you're playing right now, and given what your nature is like, are you of a steady kind of nature? Are you an action person? Are you a, just give me time to work and I don't want to be leader of anybody and I want to go away kind of person? You have to know what your nature is. Given though that construct, what is your dharma in this situation? So it's a tough one. The Hindu dharma demands a lot from its practitioners.
True.
It's not easy. It's not belief. It's not follow these rules and you'll be fine. You'll go to heaven. There are no rules.
Correct.
So in each moment, depending on the circumstances and depending on who you are, you have to choose action wisely. And you choose it wisely because every action has a consequence.
Of course.
And you have to, have to deal with the consequences.
True, you have to.
So in that situation, I tell children, what is your dharma as a student? And they all say, duty. I'm like, yes. What, as a student, what? To study hard. That's the first thing that comes.
Whether or not they do, they will say the
but
right
they know
thing,
this. At least that is something to be happy about, that they know what their dharma is.
True.
So when I ask them, okay, why should you study? Then I tell them, okay, if that is the reason why you should study, guess what? Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that all those reasons are wrong. And they're like, seriously? Then what could be the reason? I say, see, the thing is, Krishna doesn't just say, do your duty, do your dharma. He also adds 3 words as a corollary. That makes it so hard. Do your dharma with no expectations.
Yeah.
And like, what? You say, yes. So if you say, I'm studying to come first, that's an expectation. If you're saying, I'm studying to make my parents happy, that's an expectation. So then why should you study? Because as a student, it's your dharma to study. Because it's something you must do. That's all. The world is constantly, the problem for us as parents, and particularly Indian parents, is that the entire ecosystem, the world is always telling our children that if you don't achieve this level of marks, this kind of job, this kind of car, this kind of house, this kind of yard, you are a failure. You're not good enough.
Right.
So, our job as parents is made much more difficult by that. We have to shield them, and we can't shield them, unfortunately. We have to teach them to shield themselves from the chatter, from the white noise, and trust only themselves. And we have the responsibility not to add to it ourselves. Unfortunately, most of us do add to it.
True. True.
Because of our own fears and insecurities.
True.
That we won't be seen as successful parents if our children
Aren't
don't
doing,
achieve
yeah.
something. Instead, what if we could strengthen their spirits and just tell them to be the best version of themselves that they can be? No need to compete with anybody or anything.
Yes. But before I come to that, let me also pick something that you brought out about anxieties and how the entire system is adding to these anxieties. The ecosystem is such that, there's always a fear of missing out. So, probably just to simplify this while addressing this problem, what did Sri Krishna say about controlling anxieties?
Okay, I am not sure if he actually said anything about that particularly,
Specific,
but I love that
He did
the
talk
Bhagavad
about the
Gita,
Indras, huh?
the Bhagavad Gita is set in a battlefield.
Right.
It's not like, it's not meant for the sage who has the privilege of walking away and sitting in the forest. It
and
wasn't a
just,
privilege, it was a
yeah.
huge sacrifice actually.
True.
But to our eyes, it feels like, he's just sitting on the bank of some beautiful place, bank of a river, hills behind him, forest. At least Amasra Katha makes it out to be like that,
True.
right? They remove all the cold and
Even some of the modern day gurus do that.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you feel like, he has it easy. He's just sitting there. Try and be a householder, a grahastha in this world and see.
Then see,
it's,
yeah.
and be in the world and still be not of it. Be, so that is the kind of thing we are trying to achieve. And since most people in the world have to live in the world, I think the Bhagavad Gita that's why such a beautiful text. It puts you in the battlefield. Right? You are in this battlefield, Arjuna. There is no escape. Now, calm your mind so that you can fight with focus. Don't let anxiety overcome you. That's what happens to Arjuna.
Correct,
In the
absolutely.
very
Starts
first,
with, in the
starts
first
with
chapter,
that.
yeah.
The first iconic visual of the Bhagavad Gita is Arjuna and Krishna in the center of the battlefield, in full view of both armies. And Arjuna collapses to the floor of the chariot and
He
says,
I
can
can't
do this.
Yeah.
Okay, so
True.
it starts like that, and that is a situation which we face all the time.
True.
Because Kurukshetra is not just a faraway field in Haryana, it's the world we live in. Most importantly, it's the world we inhabit in our heads. That
True.
is the battlefield, that is the true battlefield. And the Kauravas and the Pandavas also are within us, they are not something outside of us.
True.
So that's why it's so easy to start talking about the Gita by saying, be like Arjuna. What did he do in that moment of dilemma, in that moment of self-doubt? He lay his arms down. He did not care what the Kauravas thought. They were looking at him. He was in full view of them. They must have been exulting. Their morale must have been like, if this guy walks away from the battlefield, man, we've got this in the bag. And what about worse? What about the Pandavas, poor chaps?
True.
Their morale would have gone down completely. If he walks away, how are we supposed to do this? And then a kind of resentment, bitterness against this warrior who walked away from the field.
True.
Not respect for walking away, but like, how dare you? You were supposed to lead us.
True.
How dare you do this? So, but did Arjuna care? Not for a moment. He said, until I have resolved this dilemma, I don't care what anybody else is thinking. And he shut his eyes off to these two armies watching him. And I say to children that that's what you must do. When you're on the horns of a dilemma, there will be the Kauravas yelling at you, do it, nobody will find out, it's cool, it'll make you cool among your peers, it's fun. Okay, so what do you have to do? Shut them off. So tell the Kauravas, be quiet, Zigbit. And each of us has a Krishna. You can call him Radha if you like, if you're a feminist. You can call him Jesus or Allah or Vaheguru, whatever. It's just your own higher self, which is inside you, which you can access at any given time if you open your mind and heart to that higher voice, which tells you, lift yourself off these small petty considerations and walk towards the sun where fearlessness is waiting for you. It's possible. So only when you manage to shut the others down, you'll be able to hear. And that's what I think we should aim for. What was the question?
I had
Kritika?
asked, so I had asked primarily in the current situation where anxieties are getting added.
So how does
Sri Krishna
yes.
addresses
Yeah,
it?
so first of all, he gives him all these options of, see, if you do this. So he gives him pause. I think that's the main thing. If you're not allowing anxiety to build up and build up and build up and then stumbling to the next thing, suppose Arjuna had said, you know what, it's too scary now to put my arms down and make this epic fuss in front of everyone. I'm just going to carry on and I'm going to think about it later. He has lost the plot. Because if you don't think about it in that moment, it's likely you will be doing something which you will regret. Right? So he says, like, that's all you need to do, Arjuna. Control the horses of your mind. Control the horses of your senses with your intellect. And you can take it where you want to go. Then it's a peaceful ride. If you have instructed your intellect, exactly, this is the pace I want. This is my ultimate goal. I don't want to reach there on time after I've started late. I will rather reach there late and tell them, I'm sorry I got late. But I'm not going to try and, put everybody at risk and myself for that. So that's how he says to reduce anxiety. And really, in the end, and how will the charioteer do this? The higher mind can only do this if he's calm.
Again, the question arises from the fact that these are some concepts which are difficult for us as adults to, practice and imbibe. And Yoga Sutras, as we said, is both about yama and niyama. It talks about not just about these physical, exercises, but it is a lot about your mental and spiritual aspect as well. But if somebody understands and reads, they'll realize that, they cover every aspect of your life.
Yeah.
How do you explain these things when it comes to children? For us, Yoga Sutras or yoga, which is the shorter aspect, is ki acha theek hai, subah you should exercise. Bachcho ko maximum what you do is you put them in games if they are lazy, and these days because of TV and digital, they want to stay at home and be hooked onto. So you push them out ki jao bhai khel ke aao. Yeah. Yoga is something which most of us ourselves begin at a much later stage in life. Or maybe it's forced upon us when we are children in school, jahan hum yoga ki exercises karate hain. Meditation is a very tough thing even for adults.
Very tough.
Because stilling your mind and arriving at a point where you're absolutely calm, every point of your body is calm, is very difficult. Again, spirituality. Another concept which for a child who may be just questioning the fact कि भगवान होता क्या है.
Which is a perfectly valid question.
लेकिन उसको spirituality की understanding देना. How do you, when you started writing and researching and writing on this, how did you address these questions that I'm sure you would have faced while your interaction with children?
In 2020 during COVID, because suddenly there was nothing to do, I thought it was high time I began to learn Sanskrit, which I had
How lovely. Okay.
So I took some online lessons, and in the course of those lessons my teacher said, oh, today there's a lecture about the Yoga Sutras, log in. I'm like, okay, I was in that mood, right? So I said, okay, let's log in and see. The thing is not unfortunate. The very fortunate thing is once you enter one portal, through one portal you enter Indic philosophy. For me it was the Gita. That's all. You can't escape, basically.
Then you are
you're just drawn into it. Then more and more portals keep opening up, and you're almost feeling like, I wish I could live longer to be able to explore all these different things. And because I had my eyes opened or my mind opened by what Sri Banavati had said, I was like, okay, whatever it is, I'm not going to be intimidated by it. It has something to give. So I will try my best. Began to read and I loved it. I thought it was the perfect thing for children, for teenagers.
Okay.
Because it's about mind control. And I think at this moment in time that this generation is experiencing a fragility of mind. Very fragile in their minds. Anything can set them off. Anything can make them despondent, despairing. And there's all this news, all terrible news coming in from across the world, which they have access to easily.
True.
Not only the news, but people taking sides. All that is accessible to you. And if you have to virtue signal, you have to take a side immediately.
Correct,
you have to say, I'm on this side or this side. If you don't pick a side, then you're considered to be not doing your job. You're not empathetic. You're not. So all these things. So I said, how lovely it would be to teach them how to calm their minds. It starts with, yoga's chittavritti nirodha. It is just to calm your mind. That's what it means. And it's a very, if you have noticed, it's a very question-answer format. The questions are missing, but the answers are there. So
true.
I always ask the kids, okay, so he starts with Atha Yoga Anushasanam. Now for the study of yoga. That's like a very good science teacher. This is what we're going to study in this chapter. So what will your question be to him? If you're sitting in front of this teacher and he said, now we're going to study yoga, what will your first question be? They say, why? I said, no, before that. So, don't think about it. Say, what is yoga? Exactly. So the answer is yoga's chitta vritti nirodha. He says. Then, as rebellious teenagers, what will you ask? Why? Why should I study?
Why should I?
Okay. And he gives the answer. Tada drashtu swarupe vastanam. Then you see yourself as you truly are. And you say, excuse me, Maharishi, otherwise what do I see myself? Of course I see myself as I truly am, and look in the mirror, I can see my teeth are crooked, my hair is too frizzy, my skin is too dark, whatever, I'm too fat, everything I can see. So what you're telling me, I'm not seeing myself as I truly am.
Right.
What do I see myself as otherwise? And he says, vritti sarupya mitharatra. Otherwise you see yourself as the churnings of your mind. And you say to him, what? I didn't understand anything.
What is churning?
What are you saying? And then it begins.
True.
Okay, so basically he's saying that imagine a quiet, absolutely still mountain lake, maybe in the Himalayas, the Alps, wherever. When that is so still, what do you see reflected in it? And then the kids will say, yeah, whatever is around. I say, yes, with absolute accuracy, with precision. Even if there's a cloud passing overhead, you'll see it. Even if there's a bird flying, everything reflected absolutely precisely.
Yeah.
Now toss a pebble into that water. As the ripples spread towards the edges, what happens to the reflection? It gets distorted. It distorts, the edges become all wavy and all that. But you can still see something. Now, imagine a storm whips up the mud at the bottom of the lake and it goes into into a roiling. Then what do you see in the lake? Absolutely nothing. You only see the roiling. You don't see anything. I said exactly what he's saying. If your mind is absolutely still, you see yourself reflected as you truly are. If your mind is constantly being churned by thoughts, you think you are the thoughts. You think that is you. You look into the lake and you see that. And you say, God, I'm so lame, I'm so useless, and I'm a mess.
True.
And how will I deal with anything? So the yamas are almost like, yamas and niyamas are the only two things in the entire ancient scriptures that we have that are somewhat close to the 10 Commandments.
Correct. Okay.
Because it says, do not lie, like Satya, Yama. Ahimsa, do not be violent. Asteya, do not steal. So there are actual injunctions.
Correct.
But the best part is, these injunctions are not because, you do not lie because you'll get a place in heaven, no. Do not lie because God is Santa and he'll bring you,
So
no.
again, it goes back to the aspect of there is no end result or outcome that you are to aim at. It
Except
should
in
just
this
be,
case, there is an end result, but the end result is not to please anybody, not even a God.
Correct.
It is to get a calm mind.
Right.
What is the goal? The only single-minded pursuit of a calm mind. So if you want a calm mind, you practice these things. So do not lie, do not be violent. And I'm very careful to also tell them that lying and violence violence particularly, is not about violence with fisticuffs. It's the violent thought. It's a violent word.
True.
All of this count as violence. Very mindful of that. In the sense, if you look in the mirror and say, God, I hate how I look, that is horrible violence you're committing against yourself. Instead, if you can say, what a beautiful functional body. How many people don't have this? Legs that can get them to places, arms that work, minds that help you think, digestion that goes on without even me thinking, lungs that expand and contract without me paying a second's attention. So if you can replace unhappiness of how you look and stuff with gratitude for what you are, for what you have, rather than sadness for what you do not have, you're already becoming a non-violent person again for yourself. Even telling the truth. Tell the truth to yourself. Don't say, because that happened, that's why I became this. you are an agent of positivity and negativity yourself.
Correct.
And you have the full control in your hand. However it may seem to you in that moment that my circumstances have made me this, you always have a choice. And if you're choosing to remain in this circumstance or whatever, maybe until you're 12 or 13 you don't have much of a choice, right? But in your mind you're always free. In your mind you can always, change your mind and change your reaction to make you stronger. You can either do this victim thing of saying I am like this because of my circumstances and stop your growth right there.
Right.
Or you can say I am a free agent and I can choose to see the world or construct the universe as I want it in my mind. That is why Aham Brahmasmi.
Correct.
I am God. I can construct my universe. It's in your hands. You can make the world whatever you want it to be.
True.
And if you can give the children that kind of understanding about themselves, that they are empowered beings of light, they can do anything they want to, even though they may not believe it at the moment, somewhere it will sit in their head. And it's like, you can be who you want to be. Don't blame your circumstances at all. Give yourself affirmative phrases, affirmations when you wake up in the morning. I can do this. I shall be better tomorrow than I am today. I shall be better today than I was yesterday. That again calls for a reflection. Sit in the evening and I tell them, you think if you suddenly asked Krishna, I need to decide on this dilemma, chop, tell me what to do. Do you think he'll suddenly wake up and start speaking to you? No. Why did he speak to Arjuna? Because Arjuna had taken years of effort at building a strong friendship with Krishna. They had spent so much time together.
True.
That even Draupadi used to complain that why can I just have my friend Krishna to myself for some time?
True.
Why you both only have to be together all the time?
Right.
But that's the kind of bond you need to build with your higher self, with your Krishna. And once you have built that, you will trust what that voice says completely. Otherwise, even if a voice is telling you not to do it, you will say, what is this voice? This could be my mind playing tricks on me. But when you learn to recognize Krishna's voice, that this is your nature and he's telling you what to do, you will probably, and you must have to have followed him a few times and said, man, he knows me better than I do myself. I think it makes sense to listen to him. Because choices will always be there. And really, our life is a battlefield of choices.
Correct.
Every time we make one choice, all the other possibilities fall away. And you can only make one choice.
Right.
And so to make the right choice, therefore, is so important. And right means what? Right means it's made without emotion. It is made with a clear mind. So if you ask yourself when you're doing an action, wait 1 second, mindful, where is this coming from? What is the root of this action? Am I doing it out of anger? Am I doing it out of envy? Am I doing it out of fear? I mean, you'll be brutally honest with yourself. Why am I doing this? And even most importantly, am I doing it out of love? That is also wrong. I mean, it's wronger than it would if you can take out the emotions and think clearly. So that's what Krishna is helping Arjuna do on the battlefield. Take away the emotion. Yes, because he says, Mama Janaha, they are my people, Arjuna, Krishna, how can I kill them?
How can I kill them?
And Arjuna and Krishna says, just because they are your people. So what does that mean? You're putting yourself, your ego, your emotion, your closeness to them. As a Kshatriya, what is your dharma? To destroy adharma wherever it is. Just because they're your people, it becomes, they get a pass, free pass. But if it was somebody else, you would go after them like all, hammer and tongs after them.
True.
That's not right. You have to keep your duty. That is dharma. So that kind of conversation.
But you made a very important point and you brought out the aspect of ahimsa. And at the same time, as you yourself started the conversation with, that it's the Shrimad Bhagavad Gita is set in the battlefield, where you have the shastra in your hand and it's a bloody war that you have to... Now, ahimsa talks about non-violence, and then you see something which is so violent.
Yeah.
How do you explain questions where, like I'm asked many a times by younger children that, आप कहते हो कि किसी को हर्ट नहीं करना चाहिए. अहिंसा टू देम इज
Yeah,
किसी को
yeah,
हर्ट नहीं
yeah,
करना
yeah.
है या किसी को. बट अगर कोई मुझे मार रहा है तो.
Yeah.
So how do you address these questions in terms of the kind of contradictions that arise between ahimsa and protecting dharma, if we try to put it that way?
So, yeah, it's a difficult one. It's a tough one, and everyone has to grow into it by themselves. Understanding what is ahimsa for them, right? But I would say again, if you take the emotion out, so suppose there is like a bully in the playground, and he or she, but I'm likely to think it's more often a he. Although girls can do it with words,
True.
So if not with action. So anyway, let's assume this is going on and somebody is bullying a younger child, and as a passerby, as a bystander, you know that just even a bystander has a responsibility, has a dharma. He can't let adharma happen in front of him.
True.
So what are you supposed to do? If you just go after that bully and beat him up or something, that is maybe not the right thing, especially if you haven't thought about it first. So mindful action first. Pause, think, what is going on here? How can I stop? This is not right. It has to stop. But how do I stop it? What method do I use? First, you look for an adult, a responsible adult, and so that they can come in, because you can't take the law into your hands. Right. So you can, otherwise everybody will be taking the law into their hands and justifying it also. So there is a system in place. So that system has to be reached out to first. Okay, nobody's there. It's after hours. Everybody's gone home and this and that. So it's just you on the playground. What are you supposed to do? You can start by talking to that bully. You can start at that level by saying, no, I don't think you should do that. Please stop it. And if that person doesn't stop or doesn't engage in a discussion about it, then you will try and protect the child by placing yourself in front. Even before you raise a hand against the other person, you will place yourself in front of the smaller child and say, no, you have to go past me to get to him. Okay. And if he still keeps coming, then of course you will shove him out of the way. But the real thing to be thinking about, what is going on in your mind at that time. If you are doing it out of anger towards that other child, not child, that's also a child. If you're doing it out of anger towards the bully, then how your action comes out, how it affects your psyche is very different from if you're saying, what is my dharma in this situation? I have to stop this. That's all. Not with anger towards anybody. I just have to stop it from happening. So if you're able to, maybe you will have to push that person if that is what is required. But if you can do it without anger, and in the next moment, if he's subdued, the bully, you are able to give your hand to him, pull him up and go on your way without feeling triumph. I got him. Or without feeling that kind of triumph only, or what else, joy at having pulled down somebody, but just a sense of, I have done my duty. I have done what's required of me. That's the way to react. So that is the difference between karma and karma yoga. Karma is doing. All of us are doing karma all the time. Breathing is also a karma. But karma yoga is doing it with that amount of detachment that I am only an instrument in this situation. I'm doing this because I happen to be at the scene, but there is no joy to be derived from it. There's no triumph. There's no feeling of superiority over the other person. There's no feeling of hate or anger. And next minute I can be friends with that person again and carry on without it having left a stain on my psyche. So we have to train them to get to karma. You have to do. And the situations where you're being pushed around, you have to push back. But if you're able to do it without feeling that anger and bitterness and resentment, because all of it stains your psyche only. So
Upanishads also talk about detachment.
Yeah.
How do you define Upanishads and Vedas to children? How do you differentiate and how do you tell them how each of them is important?
Yeah. So that's a long answer, but in short, I would say that the Vedas are the oldest texts that we know of. I mean, I always leave that option because Indic philosophy and
you never know how
you don't
before
know
that,
before or parallelly or somewhere else in the world or whatever. But always, what I want to say is keep an open mind as far as we know. So that brings in that humility and an understanding that we don't know everything. once a child or an adult feels we know, that's the end of learning. That's the end of growth.
True.
So we have to keep that option open that there could be new data coming in from somewhere. We don't know. So as far as we know, the Vedas are some of the oldest texts in the subcontinent. And the Vedas are of 4 parts. There is Samhitas, Brahmanas, Aranyakas and the Upanishads. Okay, they were in 4 different times they were composed.
Correct.
And we can't say written because it was all oral. They were composed at 4 different times by a plethora of different people who are not even named. Different people sitting different places got that. Basically they made themselves tuning rods to receive the wisdom of the universe. And these are revelation. They are not composed by humans. Shruti. So revelation. And the best part is anyone can access it. For that you have to develop that calm mind that Patanjali is talking about. And if you just focus on the wisdoms of the universe, they will be revealed to you. So anyway, there are 4 sections, but who decided that these came in 4 batches like this? It was Vedavyasa, a human being.
True.
Who later decided maybe we should collect it. He was a Vyasa, he was a compiler. Vyasa just means compiler. So he put it all together and said this is it. And the best part about the Vedas, the early Vedas, the Samhitas are all about ritual. Because those were worshipping of the nature gods. There was Indra and Agni and all that. Okay. So, and the Upanishads, which are part of the Vedas, which Vedavyasa made sure were part of the Vedas, the latter part, the last part, that's why it's called Vedanta, the end of the Vedas. The Upanishads say that ritual is not important at all.
Correct, yeah.
And it's something, the literal ritual is not important as the metaphorical ritual. You don't have to have a yagna, an external yagna, and pour ghee and curd and whatever else and animals and whatever else you can sacrifice. That is not as important as the internal yagna. To keep that fire of curiosity and burning desire for knowledge. And to throw into it your selfishness, your sloth, your impatience, put all the negative energies into that, let that burn.
True.
But the fact that Vedavyasa put them in the same text, I think tells us of the greatness of Indian philosophy, which allows contradiction within the same text. So it's different ways to arrive at the same thing. Even within the Vedas themselves are the Upanishads which question the Vedas.
Right.
What an amazing thing. What an amazing openness of mind to be able to allow yourself to be questioned. You come up with this is it, and then somebody, and you yourself go back and say, but wait, let me find the flaws in this argument. And then you question it. If we can help our children learn that, that would be just great. So to not say that this is it, and because you don't say what I'm saying, you are wrong. That is pointless. How does one become Brahman? Brahma just means vast. How do you become that? You become that by including other points of view into your own, by letting them all flow into you.
True.
Even somebody who's at your polar opposite in a certain opinion, if you're able to say, let me walk in your shoes and see what the landscape looks like from there, from where you are standing, you'll probably realize it looks very different.
And that is the truth for him.
That is true.
Yeah.
That's the truth for him. And the truth is made up of many, many shards of my truth, her truth, your truth.
True.
And if you're hoping to become God, to live up to the destiny of Aham Brahmasmi, which you have been promised, how can you get there? Only by being inclusive of every other point of view. And Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, every route to me is valid. You want to come via Gnana Yoga? Sure. You want to come via Karma Yoga? Sure. Bhakti Yoga? Sure. Dhyana. Whatever you want, they all lead to me. If you do it with meticulousness and discipline, tapah, swadhyaya, do all that, it will come to me. So, embedded within the Gita is this not tolerance but acceptance of plurality and diversity, which India has exemplified for centuries, for millennia, in its behavior as a nation. Nation is the wrong word, as a community. India has sort of exemplified that. And that is why whenever there is anybody suggesting otherwise, we have to have our radar on full alert and say, no, no, no. Exclusiveness is not our dharma. It's not our DNA. Our DNA is inclusiveness. To include everybody in this grand concept of, grand vision of Sanatana Dharma. Sanatana is eternal law, and Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam is, of course, the entire Vasudha. The earth is my family. If we can keep that notion open and tell that to children, I think we'll be better off.
No, absolutely. Just some quick questions in
Yeah.
the end that I would like to
Sure.
pose. I think hopefully everything is going fine, na? कहीं पता चला हम बाद में. This is recording, no?
Good.
So the first is, what are the daily habits or routines you think families can, themselves practice or gradually instill in order for building mental strength in children?
I think even before building mental strength, families should build trust between parents and children. I think that is lacking nowadays quite a lot. So I would suggest a family circle time across the dinner table or post dinner or something where everyone has to be present. And if you instill that early enough, I think children will agree to be part of it. And if you yourself don't put your work and other priorities, everybody has to
Should
give
be
up
there, yeah,
everything
yeah.
and be present for that time. And at that time, you take stock of what your days was like. And say, parents also confide, children also confide that I could have been a better person in this case, I wasn't. So maybe tomorrow I should do this. What do you think I should do? I'm not feeling good about what I did today with this person or in this situation. I think it builds trust that if the adult also is saying, it's up to you, tell me what
That we also did something
wrong.
Yeah.
And we trust
Accepting
you
that, yeah,
because
yeah.
children come with that very clear-sightedness which they lose and we lose as we become
As
adult.
we become adult. True.
And we don't like to hear that from children because they are
true.
so clear. That's the whole Nachiketa story. He tells
True.
his dad, what are you doing?
This is wrong. Yeah.
This is wrong. And that ruins it. He said, please go to Yama.
True.
And so that kind of thing. So I think a circle time would be good where everybody comes down to the same level and treats each other as souls who have been through a lot, not as parents and children, and listens.
How do you think parents can encourage to develop a growth mindset in children?
That's what I think. We can tell them that they are actually empowered beings and they're completely whole. Difficult to believe. But, there is a story where it says, I tell children this story about how the sages from the Upanishads were like scientists, actually. They weren't what you think, like some just chanting some Sanskrit thing. That's not what they were. They were scientists with great curiosity and a great acumen to be able to ask these questions of existentialist questions and try and find answers. So, for instance, they would say, okay, we know that the universe is made up of these 5 elements: earth, fire, air, water, space, the space that holds all of it in it. What is a man made of? And then they would probably look at a person who had just died and say, let's look at this man, he has just died. What has changed? And the first thing you may say is, oh, he stopped breathing. So there was air in his body when he was alive and now there isn't. So a man is made of air. Then you say, what else has happened? He's grown cold. Oh, so there was fire in the body and now there isn't. So a man is made of fire. What else? So the blood has stopped flowing, the digestive juices are not flowing, the saliva is so a man is made of water. And then what happens to his body now? It shrinks. It all the pipes, the tubes close up, it shrinks, the water goes out. So what has happened to it? The space which was inside it was inhabited by space and it's not anymore. So the body is made, a man is made of space. And then what happens to him now? You either cremate him or you bury him and he becomes part of the earth again. So a man was made of earth and he's not. So, oh my God. So the very 5 elements that make up the cosmos make up a man. So don't you ever think of yourself as insignificant or irrelevant or weak, because you are as radiant as the sun. You are as giving and compassionate as the earth. You are as deep and fast flowing as water. You are present everywhere with power like the wind. And you have the space to contain all of that energy within yourself. So whenever you think of yourself as small or anything, say, I have the power of the cosmos within me. I can make anything I want happen. And, make yourself bigger than you are. You're already complete. You don't need anything, not that device, not that friend, not that relationship to make you complete. You already are. So stop looking for that missing piece outside of yourself. Look inside. So I think those kind of stories.
Beautifully put, yeah.
I don't know how far they go, but we have to learn to believe. I believe it now. After saying it so many times to so many children, it has become part of me now. So when you start thinking like that, it's already a growth mindset, right? I can do anything. So yeah.
How do you initiate children into our old ancient texts, Shrimad Bhagavad Gita or Vedas or Upanishads? How do you think one should try as a parent to initiate?
Yeah. So first of all, I believe that these things cannot be rushed or forced upon
Imposed,
anyone.
yeah.
Imposed. A book comes to you when you are ready for it. It offers itself. However, what we can do as parents and facilitators is to take away the lore, or not the lore, but the fear surrounding it, the kind of intimidation surrounding it, that, it's a very holy text and one must read it and one must. The must should be dropped. Should be dropped. It's just, this is such a great book and I love it. And if they see you reading it a lot and say, guess what it says here? Make it very informal, very casual how you introduce it. Don't introduce this thing as a book on a pedestal that must be bowed down to. Introduce it as a great work of literature, which has like fun stuff. Not even fun is not right, but which has stuff that can help you live your life better, but without telling the kids, this is the thing with children. The moment you push them and say, do this, their instinct is to say, I will not do it.
True.
So let's not even go there. Let's just surround them with these books and let's keep them around if they want to read. And we say, no, the Gita taught me this, so I'm very happy. And demonstrate and role model what you have learned from the Gita. And in these, if you do a family time, discuss, this is how I was helped by this book. And if you have read any other book, because they are constantly listening to podcasts and things which sort of say the same thing. Everybody is looking for the same thing, whether they are teenage. Everybody is looking for how to be calm, how to be content, how to
be better
than we are. People, it's a human thing to want to be better than you are. So what does your podcast say? And if they say something, you say, in the Gita it says this, almost the same thing, right? That's all. Just leave it at that. And then if they feel like, they will come to it.
And some of your favorite hymns or shlokas that you think, you usually share with children when you are talking to them?
Of course, the Karmanya Vadikaraste is the thing. That's a very nice one that everybody knows. That, and from the Vedas, from the Rig Veda, I love the hymn of creation, Nasadiya Sukta. And I love that the Rig Veda gives us not one creation myth, but 4. So even there, they're like, take your pick. Whatever I don't know. They know, but even those sages who have seen it are not saying, they don't claim to know everything. Yeah. No, they say, this is what I saw. What did you see?
True.
So in that, they've given 4, and the Nasadiya Sukta is brilliant, especially because it's very visual. It's about the world, nothing being there and everything being dark and no duality, everything concentrated to a very dense, very point of matter, and then it begins to expand and grow, and it becomes the universe. And for me, the always goosebumpy part, I always read it out to children, and goosebumpy part is that how all of them, especially when they're about 13, 14, say, my God, that sounds like the Big Bang.
Exactly.
It sounds exactly like the Big Bang.
True.
So again, there is that commonality of human experience. Somebody sees it in that way as the Big Bang, somebody sees it as this. But we're all essentially seeing the same truth.
True.
And I love that the Vedas allow, if none of these, if you don't agree with any of these 4, come up with your own. That's also fine. But be sure to come back and tell us so that we can expand our knowledge. So that thing of always passing it on, not just keeping it to yourself. Because I explain it in my Upanishads book. It's like, what's it called? Pravachana. You have to do pravachana when you have to do svadhyaya and you have to do pravachana. Not just, okay, I've understood it and I'm very happy and
You
I'm
also
better
have to
off than
pass-
you. You
yeah,
have
you
to
also
pass
pass
it
it
on.
on, yeah.
Because if you fill your cup and you don't change the water, it just starts, attracting flies. So you have to pass it on so that your cup is empty to receive fresh wisdom and then pass it on. So when you do that, it's a better thing. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Rupa. It's
You're
been
welcome.
such a delight speaking to you.
Thank you.
And so enlightening to speak to you. I think today I have picked up some important nuggets that I'll go back and try and work with my children on. Thank you so much for making time today
You're
again.
welcome. And the only thing is always to tell ourselves that in every scripture, whether in the Gita or the Upanishads or the Yoga Sutras, abhyasa, abhyasa, abhyasa. So it's not beyond anyone to achieve these things, but you have to commit to the journey and you have to
Practice,
practice,
yeah.
practice. Sadhana, you will get there.
No, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I do hope that this episode, resonates with not just parents but all the children, all your children fans who will watch this. And I also look forward to having many more conversations in
Sure.
future with you whenever you're back in Delhi.
Sure.
Please, if you can make time, please let us know, and we would be
I
happy to
will.
have you back.
I will.
If you want to continue listening in to such interesting conversations about Bharat, do like and subscribe.